Hello and welcome to another episode of the DigiTeacher Digest. This week I thought I'd do something a little bit different and do a bit of a movie review using educational theory as a way into the movie. So I'd like to look at Educating Rita, a film from 1983, the screenplay by Willie Russell, directed by Lewis Gilbert, starring Michael Caine and Julie Waters. Julie Waters plays Rita, a young hairdresser who is trapped in her situation. Humdrum job, a husband who just wants babies, trapped in a working class life and looking for education as a route out. Frank is a washed up, dried up academic, all promise gone from his life, sunk deep in alcoholism, and a rather uninspiring role model for an inspiring teacher movie. Michael Caine won BAFTA and Golden Globe awards for Best Actor and Academy Oscar nominations. But what can he teach Rita? He's a teacher of English literature, and he teaches her how to decode literature, how to decode the illusions in literature, and how to write essays in English literature. Newly enrolled in the Open University, Rita, of course, knows nothing, and she's asked to write an essay on how to resolve the staging difficulties in Ibsen's Peer Gynt, and her response, "Do it on the radio," really tickles Frank's fancy because it is so raw and so real. It's not a jaded response, not something that delves into Aristotle's Poetics or anything like that, which would have been an adequate exam response. So in a sense, Rita becomes Frank's teacher. She teaches him new insights, fresh ways of looking at the world, and a way out of what has become for him a desiccated academic vision. All his fancy illusions, his knowledge, is really empty. What profiteth a man to gain the world if he loseth his soul? Rita is thus presented as the teacher. But although something of an anti-hero, Frank has something to offer Rita. The academic knowledge that he can pass on to her is something which can offer her an escape, a way out of her trapped existence. Learning these new skills offers her new horizons, new ways of looking at the world, and a way out, a way of escape. He is thus, in a sense, a bit of an anti-hero, but an inspirational teacher. The resolution of the movie hinges on choice. So when in her final exams she gets a question, how do you resolve the staging difficulties of Ibsen's Peer Gynt, she could answer, I do it on the radio, her raw, authentic self, but she chooses to use her new academic knowledge, the academic language that she has acquired with Frank's help, to pass the exam, to write the essay, get her degree, which offers her life opportunities that she would not otherwise have had. So the movie is pretty much a feel-good movie. It ends with Frank seemingly cured of his alcoholism, off to a new beginning in Australia, and Rita with new horizons, new vistas opening up before her, provided by this new education that she has acquired with Frank's help. So what can this tell us about education generally? So at a common sense level, of course, one can see that there are two ways of learning something. One can learn things experientially. So if I touch a hot plate and it burns me, I'll kind of learn not to touch it again. I'll learn that hot plates can be dangerous. But we also learn socially. We learn from other people. Other people tell us things like, please don't touch that hot plate, it's hot. So two ways of learning. The one kind of represents Rita's raw, experiential approach to learning. You know, if you cut the Gordian knot of Ibsen's staging by just putting it on the radio, and thus avoiding all the knotty issues of Aristotle's Poetics and so on. But we also learn from people telling us things. We learn from teaching. So this presents a central contradiction, really, at the heart of the educational project. And I'd like to use some of the ideas of Mikhail Bakhtin, 1895 to 1975. He was a literary critic, philosopher. I'm no Bakhtin expert, but the sense I get is very much that language, culture, meaning is both external to people and obviously is also internal. And there is a constant contradiction or dialogue between external meanings and internal meanings. So, for example, of a word like horse, there is a common understanding amongst many people of what the word horse means. A quadruped, herbivore, hooved. I'm no biologist, I can't define it exactly. But when it comes to individuals, of course, individuals will attach different meanings to horses because we've had different experience of horses. My meaning of horse is very much an image of a Shetland pony, muzzlingly half to death to get a sugar lump against a barbed wire fence. Yours might have been of an Arab stallion at the racetrack. So this is important because very much in the same way that words might have different meanings to different people, because we have internalized the idea of horse or house or school or any concept differently. And there are small individual idiosyncratic differences between all of us. So with knowledge. So there is knowledge which is external. There is knowledge of the world, of physics, of biology, or whatever it is. And that has to be internalized by people. And we internalize it in quite idiosyncratic ways. So my knowledge of nuclear physics, for example, may well differ from your knowledge of nuclear physics, and certainly from the knowledge of an expert, of a nuclear physicist, because I might have misconstrued different concepts, I might have attached different meanings to things. My metaphors will be probably way off and inaccurate. And the process of education really is about trying to narrow that gap. So to use a kind of Bakhtinian language, you have a monologic voice of the expert, of the teacher, of someone who has knowledge. And that monologic voice is then internalized by people. And the dialogic voice is the voice of my understanding of it, which is idiosyncratic. It's not quite the same as a fully mature understanding of an idea, for example. So that is a dialogic voice, because there are multiple voices amongst multiple people. And it's that sense of monologic voice of the teacher, for example, with academic knowledge, a particular set of ideas, concepts that the teacher wants to convey in the classroom. And these are ideas which will lead to academic success. They're the ideas that you need to pass the exam, to get the piece of paper, to go on to university, to get the degree which will allow you to get jobs and so on, and to go up the ladder, much as Rita went up the ladder by acquiring that language, acquiring the monologic voice which Frank has access to. Her own perceptions and her own quirkiness represents the dialogic voice that she brings to the conversation, her incomplete understandings, her non-academic understandings, which, while charming and very attractive, and it's what brings Frank alive in the end. And I think all teachers can relate to this, that sometimes a student will say something which is so fresh and so new, and which opens up one's understanding in new ways. We do learn from students. So this kind of tension between the monologic voice of the academy, knowledge that you have to have, in other words, a voice of power, things which give you access to power in society, being able to speak with a standard grammar, for example, with the right accent, having the knowledge that you need to get powerful jobs and so on, is contrasted with the dialogic voice, or voice as the power of voice, the powerful voices that students do bring to the conversation. And by using these ideas from Bakhtin, I think we get a strong sense in the classroom of a need to balance these. So within education, the monologic voice is very much one-to-many. It's the voice of the teacher explaining its direct instruction, if you like. Dialogic voice is that of many-to-many. It's students talking to each other. And for the life of me, I cannot see why one would be considered superior to the other, as an argument made by the constructivists, for example, who constantly want to do away with the voice of the teacher and to substitute it just as the teacher as the guide on the side, someone who facilitates discussion among students as a vehicle for learning. Why would that be superior? Why would that lead to any kind of education? Surely what you need is that balance between the monologic voice and the dialogic. And to have that, you need a certain amount of direct instruction. Teachers need to teach. They cannot abandon their duties in that respect. They need to be in a classroom teaching. Students then should be given an opportunity to try the ideas out, to talk, to present their views, and listening to those voices, that power of voice, listening to multiple voices, dialogic voices, is how a teacher is able to hone that voice, to be able to know how to intervene further, to be able to develop that voice to the point where the voice can stand on its own. And I think if you see things like this, using Bakhtin is a very useful corrective to an idea which is very common in education today, and that is that teachers should not teach, that teachers need to be facilitators. No, teachers need to be, in a phrase I've heard, meddlers in the middle. Teachers need to be mixed in there. They need to be teaching, and they need to be listening to the power of student voices and helping students find their voice and helping students develop their voice. And what Educating Rita, I think, shows us is that the view that the student teaches the teacher, that it is Rita who ends up teaching Frank, partially that is true, but in the end it is Rita who is empowered. Rita is the one who has new horizons open to her, a whole new world, because she has acquired a particular point of view. She has acquired dispositions and she has acquired knowledge which will enable her to do much more in society than she would have been able to do if she had not had that instruction from Frank. It is certainly not an inspirational teacher movie in which the anti-hero is taught by the student, as is often presented in summaries and trailers of the movie. Very much so, Rita is the one who benefits from the educational process. Frank does too. He ends up in Australia, and make of that what you will. There is a prevailing anti-intellectualism in the world today, which suggests that the knowledge and the insights of experts are somehow less than even than common people's insights into quite complex issues. And this, of course, is simply not the case. It's not the case in nuclear physics or in any field of life. So when Rita suggests that you can resolve the complex issues behind difficulties of staging an Ibsen play simply by putting it on the radio, she's kind of missing the point. But I think, although the film leans into this idea and toys with it and plays with it, and I think leads the audience to enjoy that sense of a common person putting it over on pompous academics, ultimately Rita is redeemed by the knowledge that she acquires, and I think the film restores a proper balance. If you've enjoyed this video, please share, please comment in the comments section, please like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you won't miss another episode again.